Good morning and a warm welcome to our last program from Parliament this quarter. The NCOP will have its final sitting this afternoon to put its stamp of approval on the national budget. A few committees from both houses still have some work to do, but then it's all over for this term. MPs not on study tours are expected to spend most of the winter recess in their respective constituencies. They will be back late in July, but the first plenary sessions after the break will only commence on the 7th of August. View from the House will also be back on that morning to resume its coverage from Parliament. Today we talk to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs about progress in struggling municipalities, if any, and we hear more about today's special Youth Parliament. For our first item, we go to the SABC studios in Pretoria, Tshwane. We are joined by Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Mr. Richard Baloyi, who will be talking to us about progress with his department's strategy to turn around struggling local municipalities. Good morning, Minister, and welcome to our program.
Good morning, Kokeli, and morning to the viewers.
Minister, we have reached the mid-term phase of local governments, and if one look at protests, listen to reports on failures of service delivery on local level, the picture doesn't look good. What is your assessment of local government from where you sit?
Thank you very much. The situation differ from one municipality to the other. There are those municipalities that are performing their work. They are doing services, delivering services to the people. Of course, the point you raised in those areas where service delivery is like a rife, it's a point for concern. That's why we have to engage, and we're engaging on those issues.
Minister, you have visited some of the hotspots in the Northwest Province, Ratanda in Gauteng, Balfour in Mpumalanga, the Nelson Mandela Metropole, and Betuli in the Free State. What are communities telling you there?
Well, communities are raising issues that affect them from day to day. Of course, it differs from one area to another. The common of the issues that the people are raising is in the area of the provision of basic services, the water, in the areas of electricity, the areas of housing, where you have in some areas the community will be raising issues about non-completed or uncompleted projects. So the situation differs from one area to another. In some areas, it's a question of infrastructure not performing optimally to the expectation of the people.
Opposition parties are blaming cadre deployment, corrupt officials or councillors in cahoots with political leaders. Is that the reason why so many have failed?
Well, cadre deployment, if practiced correctly as a concept and a practice as to what ought to be, sending people who are equal to the task to particular positions should not be an issue. But of course, it is an issue that is not only worrying opposition parties, it's worrying us as government if you will have in situations where people are appointed and they're not equal to the task. That's why we are engaging on these matters and then saying, let's actually address this matter. There are very clear positions that would then say, what is it that make a person to be employable to a particular service? Because all what we expect is a person equal to the task and nothing more than that. It's not an issue that is only worrying, more especially you raise the issue of corruption. It's not an issue that is only worrying the opposition parties. It's worrying government. That's why we put in place mechanisms to fight corruption, and we keep on sharpening those. I addressed Parliament recently. I spoke about how we are strengthening the anti-corruption inspectorate within COGTA, so that in the spirit of cooperative governance, we can deal with this scourge of corruption.
Minister, only last week, Zanspruit informal settlement in Gauteng was up in flames, and Beyers Naudé Drive had to be closed down because of stone throwing protesters. And it looks like the situation is spiraling out of control. Are you still indeed in control of situations, especially in volatile municipalities like those?
We are in control of the situation, perfectly in control of the situation. In the situations that are affected by violence, when people embark on the democratic right to protest, but then the element of corruption comes in. We're in control because we rise to the occasion, we deal with those issues according to the actions that are there. We want to put in and put it straight that it is not when people become violent that their voices will be heard. We live in a democracy. Doors are open. Let people talk and talk to the leadership, talk to the structures that have been created to deal with those things. Yes, it's true. We are on top of the situation. We are dealing with these matters.
The department's turnaround strategy has now been implemented for quite some time. Could you perhaps just tell us briefly what the turnaround strategy is all about, and is there progress now? Is it bringing about change?
Yes, there is. We are saying we have introduced interventions. We have theorized what we're putting as a priority in the implementation of the turnaround strategy is to make sure that in the areas of governance we do what is expected of us. In the areas of financial management, we make sure that we do what is expected, dedicating the resources that we have to the services that we are supposed to provide. Yes, of course, it is true that the response in terms of municipalities as individuals may sometimes be differing, but what we then say, we are actually putting it as a priority that the turnaround strategy is implemented. That is the way to go. Implement and implement.
With regard to the lack of skills in financial management of municipalities, how many councillors have been trained to understand what Finance Management Act requires from them, and in fact to understand the simple basics of good bookkeeping?
Financial training and training in other fields is ongoing. I can indicate that we indicated that municipal public account committees should be established, and I can indicate that more than 200 of them have already been trained, and that there are ongoing training interventions on financial management, programs run by COCTA and programs run by Treasury, meant to deal with these issues. So we're taking this serious. That's why we put it as one of the 5 priority areas where we have to do things differently if we are to be at the point where we want us to be.
Minister, you recently, your department signed a memorandum of understanding with some businesses with the project of Business Adopt a Municipality. How does that work, briefly?
It works in a way informed by the reality that working together we can learn more from each other. In as far as professionalism in project management, in as far as the necessary expertise in financial management, we can learn a lot from each. That's why we then say operating guided by the slogan from each according to capability to each according to need. You are then saying these businesses, which in their own right are running their businesses successfully, we can learn a lot from them. So instead of saying we live far away from each other, let's come closer. So the concept of Business Adopt a Municipality is meant to actually assist in as far as transferring skills. We are taking it further, Kokeli. Of course, implementing government's policy that will pass what we refer to as the revolving door policy, where we're also saying we are also pulling at academic institutions to play a part in as far as the skills transfer is concerned. So yes, we have signed a memorandum of understanding, and we'll continue to do that, looking at municipalities. If we identify weaknesses, you look at a partner who can come closer to assist in terms of getting that municipality to be at a point where we want it to be.
Minister, we've got to leave it there. We've run out of time. Thank you very much for coming through. After the break, we